Okay, so this is the video for how to put the neck on your body and how to turn your .stl into an Inventor file. Essentially what we're going to try and do is we're going to make an Inventor file out of your body and then be able to bring other Inventor pieces together and then make one big STL together to be able to send off to print. We're going to try to manipulate it in Inventor. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to Inventor, you're going to go to New, Standard.ipt, you're going to go to Classroom Programs, excuse me, not Classroom Programs, you're going to go back to your bobblehead, you're going to go to, here's my 2AB body, we're going to bring it in up top here to open that up. Now this may take a moment or two, I'm going to hit pause because it'll be back in a second. Okay, that only took a few seconds, which is good, but what we did was we brought it into Inventor, and now the next thing we have to do is we have to create it. There's an app, where it's called Base for Adapt, Convert to Base Feature. So this is an add-in that you can get off the internet if you go to AutoCAD's website. If you don't have it on your computer here at school, which you should, but if for some reason you didn't, you can go to Convert to Base Feature. Now there are two options here. The first one is solid surface, and the other one is composite. And it's hard to tell which one is set up, but you want solid surface. So consciously make an effort to click on that. We'll click Delete Original since we don't want that, and we'll say OK. Now I know this should take a while, so what we're going to do is we're going to pause and come back. This will take 5 minutes or so. Okay, so we're back. That took 2 or 3 minutes. It can take a very long time, especially on some of the computers in the room that don't have maybe as good resources as my one here at the desktop. So you sometimes have to be patient. It will say not responding, but it is responding. It's doing something. So eventually it comes back. Once you've got it as a base feature, it's a pretty resource-intensive file. So just be conscious of the fact that if you go doing a lot of zooming and moving things around, it really goes a little kablooey. So I would just make an effort to do as little to it as possible. So what I need to do is I need to focus up on the top of this neck, and I'm going to zoom in. You see I zoomed out and zoomed back in. It hates that. And now it's paused and it's thinking. So see, it says not responding. That'll come back in a second, but again, the more you do it, I have a bad habit of scrolling the wrong way on my mouse, so I scroll out and then in when I want to zoom. I'm going to hit pause here in a second if this doesn't come back. It will eventually, but okay, it was only another 10 seconds or so, but I did center it and get things all exactly how we want them. So the next thing we have to do is we have to create a 2D sketch on top of your neck. Now, a couple things to think of is one is, well, let's sew this on and I'll explain better, but you have to choose one of these little triangles, which hopefully are relatively straight up and down. So we're putting our 2D sketch on here. One of the most important things is that your neck points straight up and down. You want that spring to go directly into your body. So if you're in a pose where you're hunched over or laying on your back or something weird like that, you're going to have to really spend quite a bit more time putting this work plane on, because that work plane has to end up being straight up and down. If your body or your flat spot on the top of your neck isn't straight up and down, then the spring isn't going to go straight up, and now you're going to have a bobblehead that doesn't really work. So here's our work plane. Now we need to end up putting a hole on here. So the springs are 0.3125. So we need an outer edge of this circle that is going to be more than that. So I'm just going to randomly draw a circle on here. And the thicker you can make this wall, one of the mistakes we made was a real thin wall. So while 0.5 is too big, you don't want too big a neck. I'm going to go with let's call it 0.42, and I'm just making up a number. There could be a better one to use. So it's something you really got to look at after the fact. It's going to be specific to how yours got laid out. So I'm going to say 0.42 should work with the size of our spring. So I'm going to say OK here, and then I'm going to move this around so that I feel like it's relatively centered, on this spot here. I think that's decent. So then I'm going to say Finish 2D Sketch. Finish 2D Sketch. I'm going to go to Extrude. And again, I'm really trying hard not to zoom in and out, not to change my rotation angles, because it goes a little kablooey when you do. Okay, I'm going to risk it. I'm going to rotate it a little here so you can see. That didn't work, or it's not responding. I don't know which. Yeah, it's thinking. See what I'm saying? When you change your rotation angle, it has to relook at it all again, and goes away and comes back. So I'm going to pause and come back. Okay, so I'm back, and all I did was change my rotation angle. So I have a circle that's 0.42, and it's going 1 inch off my body, which is definitely not what I want. What I want to do is I want to send part of that into my body and part of it out of the top of my body. And so now it's thinking because it's shoving that object in there. So see how quickly that goes. If it doesn't go quickly, I'll hit pause again. But we want to go about a ½ inch out and about a ½ inch in. I wouldn't suggest much more than a half an inch with your neck. I think that's pretty decent. Could even potentially be a little bit less, but you don't want to get too crazy with it. So we're going to say okay, and we're just extruding that object into your body. And then as soon as this is done thinking, what we're going to do is we're going to put another work plane on here. We're going to draw a circle on that work plane that is going to have a dimension that's a little bit bigger than 0.3125. If this takes a long time and I have to pause and come back, I'm going to do some of that without you beforehand. But so we're going to look for a circle that's like, 0.33, something like that. So it looks like we're good. So let's go create 2D sketch, put it right on top here. I'll hit pause while it recenters it. Okay, so it's done. It's reoriented here, and I drew a circle on, right, using that same center point. I'm going to go and I'm going to dimension it. And again, I was mentioning that the spring was 0.3125, so we need to be a little bit bigger than that. So I'm going to go 0.33. We don't want to be much bigger than that. We want the spring to just exactly fit, but we want to make sure we leave enough wall here. That's one of the mistakes we've made. We've had really thin walls, and either they didn't 3D print well, or they cracked, so you got to leave a little bit more than maybe we have in the past. So that's good. Finish 2D sketch. We're going to extrude. Click here, and again, it'll do some thinking. We want to change to cut, so that should change its direction. Right now it's set for 1 inch, so that's going to put us down exactly to the bottom of our circle. I'm going to go a little bit further, just because you really want to make sure you get it in. So let's go like 1.125. So say OK there. And it's thinking again. It's going to make this cut. Looks like it made it. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to go to Save As, and we're going to save this as an IPT. So again, because the idea is going to be that when we assemble them, we put them all together in the same way. So again, this is going to do a lot of thinking. I'm going to make you watch this, but I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Save As. Oh, maybe this is going to let me do it. Go to Save Copy As. Check that. And I'm going to name this. I'm going to name this 3 Abby Body, since this is the sort of the third version, even though it's kind of our first IPT. But click Save. Yeah, we'll say Continue, and we're good. I'm going to do the same thing to my body, and then when you see the next video, we'll start talking about assembling our scenes, and we'll do that for both objects. So if you have any questions, come on up and ask.